Welcome to the course AWS Redshift. In this module of the course, we will discuss what is Amazon Redshift, why do customers need a product like Amazon Redshift, why do customers like Amazon Redshift, history of Amazon Redshift, and summary. What is Amazon Redshift? So Amazon Redshift is a fully managed petabyte scale database service in the cloud which is used for data warehousing solutions. So that is great. So what does this all mean? At a very basic level, Amazon Redshift is what is known as a database. A database like, you know, Teradata, Netezza, Oracle, SQL Server. And the primary job of a database is to actually store data in the form of rows and columns inside tables. And we can select data from these tables using SQL. So Amazon Redshift is basically a database which stores data in the form of tables, and we can actually retrieve data from it with the help of SQLs. Now, Amazon is not just like any other database. It is a database that is specifically designed for use with data warehousing solutions. Now, now there are different kinds of databases, and some databases are more suited for OLTP, like SQL Server or PostgreSQL, and some databases are more suited for data warehousing solutions like Teradata, Amazon Redshift, Netezza, and so forth. So Amazon Redshift is actually a database which is primarily more suited for data warehousing solutions. The other important points that we need to understand is what fully managed means. To understand what fully managed means, we have to first understand what is not fully managed. Okay, so let us say that an organization wants to install, a database, wants a database, like let's say Teradata, within their company. So in order to have Teradata installed in their company for use by their staff, what they have to first do is that they have to first arrange for the hardware on which the Teradata database will be there. Then they have to arrange for the software or the operating system that will be there on the hardware. Then they have to arrange for the Teradata software which will then be installed on the operating system. Now they have to buy all this, and there is a lot of negotiation that goes into all this, and all this process can take a lot of time. After they have managed to make all these purchases, then they have to have someone come in and bring in all this hardware that they have purchased, and they have to bring it into their company. They have to have a system admin who will actually format all the hardware, and then apply the operating system and any patches that is required. And then finally they are going to need a Teradata DBA to install Teradata and make sure that it is ready for use. So what we just heard right now is basically what an organization has to do just to get things started. In addition to that, on an ongoing basis, operating system patching, hardware failure, upgrades to Teradata, or patches that have to be applied to Teradata, all these have to be applied. So an organization has to do a lot of work and has to employ a lot of people, to manage all this hardware and software around their need for database. So this is what is not fully managed. So now let's try and understand what fully managed is. So when it comes to fully managed, what that basically means is that an organization does not have to do a lot of the things that we just discussed about, which is it does not have to arrange for the hardware, it does not have to arrange for the software, it does not have to worry about the operating system, it does not have to do patching. You don't have to do any of these things. Amazon, because it's a fully managed, so Amazon Redshift, because it's a fully managed service, will take care of all that for you, and you can basically dive in immediately and what is known as be able to what is known as use the database as you want it, and you can actually start using it for your needs. So the next important point on this slide is petabyte scale. So how much is 1 petabyte? So 1 petabyte is equal to 1000 terabytes. Now, why is that important? It is important because it basically shows the capacity of Amazon Redshift. And so, as a customer, when you decide that you want your data warehouse to be on Amazon Redshift, you can be confident that you will not encounter a situation where Amazon Redshift will not be able to scale and will not be able to give you what you need in terms of capacity to store data in it. So that is at a very high level, what is Amazon Redshift. So the next point that we are going to discuss is why do customers need a product like Amazon Redshift? So to answer that question, we need to take a look at this slide. This slide, which I have borrowed from the reInvent of Amazon, basically talks about what is known as the rate at which data is going to grow over the years. As you can see in this slide, data grows 10 times every 5 years. And if data grows so rapidly, you know, and it's going to grow 10 times every 5 years, the question is, you need to be able to store this somewhere. And if you need to store it somewhere, you need a database, which has the capacity to not only store the data, but also, be able to perform well with such a large amount of data. So for that reason, a product like Amazon Redshift, comes into play and is really helpful because it can store massive amounts of data because it's a petabyte scale data warehouse, and it's also able to retrieve data quickly because of its, parallel MPP parallel engine, which can be used to retrieve data very, very quickly. Now, when you look at this slide, one would think, okay, data is growing 10 times every 5 years, but what is this data that is growing so rapidly? So looking at this slide, we can actually try and understand what kind of data is growing rapidly. Earlier on, what used to happen is that we used to mostly have transactional data, and transactional data is data which you basically comes from doing transactions. So you would swipe your credit card, you would make a banking transaction, you would purchase something, or you would buy stocks. So that all is what is known as transactional data. So for a long time, we had transactional data alone. Then came in human files. Human files is basically, our Word, PowerPoint. This PowerPoint that I prepared is a human file. And, all this is actually adding to the amount of, data explosion. Then the next thing is social interactions, which is basically social media. We have the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world. Large amount of data is being generated by Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all these kind of things. And the latest things that are generating data are IoTs. So these are basically your connected devices. These days, if you drive a new car, you will see that the car is always connected, and it is continuously sending out, it's continuously generating data, and that data is being sent to the manufacturer. At a more personal, at the home level, some of us have Amazon Echo, we have Nest, and all these devices inside our house in our attempt to make our houses more smart. And all these devices, they continuously send out what is known as machine generated data, which is actually being used for what is known as which is being used for analysis, and all this is actually resulting in an explosion of data. So now we will look at why do customers like Amazon Redshift. So why do customers like Amazon Redshift? So Amazon Redshift is extremely popular, and let's try and understand one of the reasons why it is so popular and why customers like it. So Amazon Redshift is a fully managed service. So we just spoke about what a fully managed service is, and that because it is fully managed, customers don't have to worry about a lot of things. And because they don't have to worry about a lot of things, what is happening is that they can dwell directly into the stuff that adds value to your business, which is using the data, loading the data, and trying to make sense of the data. To explain a little more about this fully managed service, earlier on, before AWS came up with this fully managed service concept, what used to happen is that there used to be an adversarial relationship between the enterprise software vendors and the organizations. So typically, if you had a customer like an Oracle or a Microsoft, who would come in and try to sell you your software, initially they would sell you the software at a very, very low price. And in the first year, to kind of get you hooked. And then what they would do that, once you got into their software, the software vendors knew that you were basically locked in. So what they would do is that from the second year onwards, they would jack up the price tremendously, and they would basically kind of bleed you. So there was always this kind of an adversarial relationship between these enterprise software vendors and the customers who bought their software. Now, with a fully managed service by AWS, this problem stopped, because with the fully managed service you have upfront pricing, and organizations have benefited so tremendously because they don't have to go through this stressful process of trying to guess what their cost is going to be every year, and whether the vendors are going to jack up their price, and so on and so forth. So, fully managed service by AWS is a very important reason why customers like Redshift. The second reason why customers like it is because it's very easy to set up via the web console or the CLI. Now, when I was explaining what not fully managed is, I explained what all goes into trying to, set up what is known as what goes into setting up Teradata database. Now, with Redshift, it is really easy because you have a web console, and in that web console, you can basically go and within 5 minutes, with a couple of clicks, you can set up a Redshift cluster and the database and everything you need to get started. If you want to use command line interfaces to programmatically be able to do that, that is also possible. So it is very easy to set up via the web console or the command line interface. The third reason is petabyte scale data warehouse. Now, what used to happen in the past is that because data warehouses were so expensive, and enterprise software vendors would charge extreme amounts of money, for storing data and for their software, companies had to make choices many times, like how individuals make choices, what data they wanted to store and what data they did not want to store. So many times what they used to do is that because the cost of storing a particular kind of data would be too high, they would just choose not to store that data. But because now you have a petabyte scale data warehouse like Redshift, which doesn't cost too much, it costs substantially less than on-premise vendors or enterprise software vendors. Being a petabyte scale data warehouse gives customers a lot of confidence that they can keep adding a lot of data, and Redshift will be able to scale along with their needs and be able to give them very, very good performance. Concurrency scaling and high performance. So concurrency scaling is a performance feature of Redshift, and this actually affects only a very small percentage of customers who use Redshift. So concurrency scaling is a feature that you have to enable if you want to be able to use it, and it is a paid service. And what concurrency scaling is that concurrency scaling helps workloads that are waiting to not wait anymore. So I can explain this in a little more detail. So many times, if there are a lot of jobs running on Redshift, some of the jobs and some of the queries have to wait for the previous jobs or queries to get over. And what concurrency scaling does is that when it sees that there are queries or jobs waiting, it automatically, without any human intervention, creates a new cluster or a new node, and it actually hydrates that node with data, and the queries that are waiting are basically sent to that node in order to execute those queries. So concurrency scaling and high performance is a very important feature which helps customers get high throughput and high performance from Redshift. New features being added to Redshift rapidly with more than 5 releases every month. So this is something that differentiates Redshift from other softwares. uh, Now, the way Amazon works is that they basically have new releases every month. So, in the old world, with enterprise softwares like Oracle, Teradata, and SQL Server, what used to happen is that every 2 years or every 3 years, the software vendor would come with a new release. So you would have Oracle 9i, then you would have 10G, then you would have 11. And what used to happen is that after 2 or 3 years, you would get new features that you could potentially use, in your system. So Redshift and Amazon, they completely eliminated that because it is a fully managed service and because they are responsible for maintaining the software. So they are able to add new features immediately, without having to wait uh, for a year or 2 years. So essentially, there is a window that you select, and in that window, what you will do is that you will allow Amazon to install new patches, new features, and all those things on your machine. So, so look at this URL, which is amazon.com/redshift. What is new? So if you go to this URL, you can basically see that it contains, all the uh, new releases that Amazon has done on its Redshift. So you see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the month of April alone, they have made 5 new releases. So, and if you look in March, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're seeing on an average, they're doing 5 releases every month. So one of the big advantages of this is that you don't have to wait for 2 years, 3 years in order for the new features to be made available to you. As soon as these features are released in the maintenance window, what Amazon will do is that they will install this, and you will be able to quickly benefit from these releases. Most of these releases are free, but there are some releases that cost money, but you can always use them to help you if it makes sense for you. Also, since they are much cheaper than other vendors, so a lot of people are still interested in using these new features because they help them improve their performance. Lower cost than similar solutions being offered by on-prem data vendors as low as 1,000 dollars per terabyte. Um, so this basically shows the price point that you can get Redshift for. So if I can get 1 terabyte for $1,000, and if I have let us say a 10 terabyte data warehouse, which is quite a reasonable size, I would be spending approximately $10,000 per terabyte, which is an extremely low cost for a data warehouse. Now, if I had an on-prem data warehouse or an on-prem database, it would have cost me at least $500,000. So, having what is known as a cloud solution like Amazon Redshift is substantially cheaper than what is known as using an on-prem database vendor or enterprise software vendor. So, a lot of customers like Redshift, people who could not afford having data warehouses earlier, now have started using data warehouses because the price point have fallen. A lot of people, so that's really great. Transparent and upfront pricing, no bill shock. So we have always encountered once in a while bill shock. We expect let us say a bill of $40 or $50, and suddenly we see a cell phone bill is $90, $100, $200. So this is something, even customers used to face. They used to think that, the cost is going to be next year for software is going to be this, but then the would be X dollars, but the software vendors would jack up the price and make it substantially higher. So they used to always be wondering, oh, what is going to be the cost next year. So what Amazon has done is that with its pricing process, it has made what is known as transparent and upfront pricing. What that basically means is that right before you what is known as right before you even take the service, right before you set up the cluster, you know exactly what you're going to pay, and that information is available here, amazon.com redshift/pricing. So let us quickly go there and see uh, what so as you can see here, depending on the type of machine that you're going to select, it actually tells you how much you're going to pay per hour. There is also, in addition to that, some IO costs, which is not all that great as long as you are within your VPC. So you can get cheaper pricing by going to reserved instances. And as I was telling you about concurrency scaling also costs money. So the good thing is that there is a pricing calculator here where you can put in all the information you need, and you can upfront understand what you are likely to pay depending on what instances you select and how much storage you have and all that. So it's upfront pricing. It's really great, and it has completely changed the way in which organizations are dealing with software vendors. The next thing is integration with AWS ecosystems. Integration with the AWS ecosystem is important because what happens is that you can store data and use other AWS services like S3, which actually you need when you're working with Amazon Redshift. You can also store your database passwords in password manager in AWS, and you can take advantage of everything else that AWS has to offer. So Amazon Redshift, though as standalone a great product, its integration with the AWS ecosystem makes it so much more useful and powerful. Where you can have a data lake on AWS S3, and then you can have a data warehouse on AWS Redshift. Security with data encryption at rest or transit with AWS KMS and SSL. Data encryption and security is very, very important. Most companies will not store their data if it is not secure, right? And for that reason, what Amazon has done is that it has spent great amount of time in trying to make sure that data is secure on the cloud, and it offers you options to encrypt your data at rest or transit using AWS KMS, which is a key management service, which is a service that you can use to encrypt your data, and SSL, which is used for encryption in transit. The next point is AWS focused on the need of their customers and listen to them. AWS and Amazon as an organization is quite different. And the reason they are different is that they are very, very customer focused and customer centric. And all the new features that show up on their products actually come from listening to their customers very, very deeply. And if there is a feature that is not there today, customers are reasonably confident that that feature will show up in the future. And for that reason, they want to stick with Redshift. And also, they don't have to wait for several years for new releases, as they are making new releases on a regular basis. So the next topic that we are going to talk about is the history of Amazon Redshift. So Redshift was first launched in 2012 and was GA in February 15, 2014. GA means general availability. let me explain what general availability is before we move forward. So the way Amazon launches a product is that what it does is that it basically, asks customers for feedback, and after asking customers for feedback, it decides what product or service. Basically, a service is a product. So I will use service because Amazon uses service. So what service that they are going to launch? Once they have decided what service they are going to launch, they will set up a team and they will have a bunch of developers, building that service. Those developers, they build that service, then they test it, and they are kind of ready with the service. At this point, the product goes into what is known as preview. In preview, Amazon invites its customers to apply for a chance to use this new service that they are about to launch. And let us say 500 customers apply, and they allow 400 customers into the preview, and they use the product in preview for let us say a couple of months. And during this time period, Amazon improves its product and makes it better. And as it improves its product and makes it better, it fixes a bunch of bugs, and it reaches a point where they are reasonably comfortable with the product, that it is functioning as intended. And once they're confident about that, they move it from preview to beta. When a product goes into beta, now what Amazon is saying is that, okay, we have released this product in beta, we are confident that this product works well, but this product is not yet ready for production loads. And while you as a customer can go and use this product as you want, we at this point are not 100% guaranteeing that this product is good for use in production. So once a product goes into beta, a large number of customers who are interested in that service would come and use the service, and that actually gives Amazon a lot of information about the product and the service. And what it does is that it further refines, tweaks, and fixes bugs that exist in that service. Now, once a service has been in what is known as uh, beta for a substantial amount of time, a couple of months, sometimes more than a year, what they do is that they release it into general availability. Once a product is in general availability, it is certified by Amazon that it's a good product and it works as expected. It should work as expected, and it is capable of taking production workload. So that is what general availability, GA or general availability means. Just moved away from the topic a bit so that everybody can understand what it means. So Redshift was first launched in 2012, and it was launched in preview, then it went into beta, and then was generally available on February 15th, 2014, where it was available to all customers. Now, the important thing I want to tell you is that because a product is generally available, it doesn't mean that it is available in all regions. Some products don't have demand in some regions. As a result, those products are not launched in that region. And because it is not launched in that region, customers in those regions can come to a different region. Like a Japanese customer can come to Northern Virginia to use that service. So general availability doesn't mean that the service is available in all regions. It just means that it is available in a given region and all customers can come to that region or regions to use that product. Redshift was created from Postgres SQL 8.0.2. Now, this is an interesting fact. What happened when Amazon decided to start Redshift was that they decided that they did not want to build the database from scratch because it would have taken them a tremendous amount of time. So they wanted what is known as a framework that they could potentially use, on which they could build. So they decided to pick Postgres uh, as their base or the framework. And the reason why they chose Postgres is because Postgres is an open source database. And what that essentially means is that its source code is available for everybody, including you and me, to read and use. So since Postgres was an open source database, what Amazon did is that they basically took the source code and used it as a base for creating Redshift. Now it is important to understand that Redshift is not same as Postgres. The reason for that is because they changed it so much that Redshift in no way resembles Postgres. So the changes that they did in order for Redshift to be able to work like a data warehouse were huge. So Postgres is an what is known as an OLTP database, whereas Redshift is what is known as a data warehousing database. So in order to make those changes, what they did was that they completely changed the data storage process. They completely changed the query execution engine which executes SQL from a row based process which is used in Postgres. They went to column based process in Redshift, and they got rid of several functions which were likely to reduce the speed of Redshift. So Redshift looks nothing like Postgres. It is a far different animal which is capable of holding petabyte scale data warehouses, and it is really fast and has features like columnar compression, which PostgreSQL does not have. Then Redshift was the fastest growing AWS service for the first 3 years until Amazon Aurora in 2015. So as you can see, Redshift grew very rapidly for its first 3 years when it was launched in 2012. And the reason that it grew so fast were all the reasons that we discussed earlier: low cost, fully managed, all great features being added really quickly. And the funny thing is that it was overtaken by Amazon Aurora, which is another database service. Uh, Redshift has thousands of customers, some of which are listed below. So as you can see, uh, they have a lot of customers. That is McDonald's, Redfin, Yelp, Pfizer, Amazon Web Services, and many more like these. We all know NASDAQ. So, Redshift has thousands of customers who are using them. Uh, there are too many to list, but these are some of the famous ones that you may be aware of. Also, Amazon itself uses Amazon itself uses Amazon Redshift for its warehousing needs. So, what better way to market your own product? Finally, let us go to the summary piece. In summary, we know that Amazon Redshift is a cloud data warehouse which is very popular and loved by customers. It provides data warehousing solutions at a much lower price point as compared to on-prem vendors. On-prem means on-premises. It is capable of storing petabytes of data. It is a fully managed service with full integration with other AWS services. There is rapid improvement to the services with multiple releases every month, like how we saw. It offers security at rest and transit with data encryption and SSL, and it is used by thousands of customers with very large volumes of data. So with this, we have come to the end of this volume. Thank you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below.